dat je ermee niet aankijken. Niks heeft met aan mijn gedoe!
Hello, I'm Anne. Welcome to my channel. You didn't expect to see that, didn't you? It is a play I went to see a couple of weeks ago, and it's a play that is called Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is a story that exists for almost 4,000 years. It was written down in Mesopotamia on 12 clay tablets, and it's the story about searching for oneself, for loved ones, for a husband that has disappeared, for love and identity, and in the end you realize that everything you are looking for is already there, is already where you were at the first place. I went to see this play because my friend and colleague plays in it, and by chance I came across its adaptation by Joan London, and it's about a man who returns from the First World War, and he goes to Northern Australia and then leaves his wife behind, and she goes then looking for her husband, and then their children are looking for something else, and everybody is looking, and finally they find things within themselves. And this is apparently what this book is about. I will talk to you about it later. I'm really curious. I found it really funny to find this in a thrift store the day before yesterday, so that's why I took it. What I also found in a thrift store is The Third Girl by Agatha Christie. It's a Hercule Poirot novel, thriller or mystery, what you call it, and it's about a girl who comes into his office and starts to confess to a murder, but in the middle of a story she leaves his office, and he's trying to piece the pieces together. And then I bought The House of Mirth too, by Edith Wharton. I never read something of Edith Wharton, so it was published in 1905, so I'm really curious how this will go. I know it's an absolute classic. It's about expectations and appearances, mostly appearances in those days. Then I also bought a signed copy of Castella. Castella is, I will look it up if it's available in English. Charles Lewinsky is a German writer, and it's about the last days or the last year of the Second World War, and suddenly a team of a film crew arrives in Castella, and they tell the villagers that it's to make a Nazi propaganda movie to encourage the men to fight, and but actually they are filming an anti-Nazi movie, and it's about all the lies and that they have to keep up with, and yeah. It's an unusual novel about the power of lying. Then I also found a Stephen King novel, Really Rosie. I never heard of it. He wrote it in '76, I believe. So yeah, it's after the one after Dolores Claiborne. So yeah, we'll see. And then an absolute no. I'm still in the thrift store. I bought Isabel Allende's Fortuna's Daughter, and I also bought The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard, and Studs Lonergan, about a boy who had, when growing up, a lot of dreams of love, finding love, work, a house, a family, but instead he became part of a mob in Chicago. Really curious. And then I also bought Jamaica by Daphne du Maurier, about a woman who marries a guy and she realizes that he is into shady things, and then she falls in love with a guy she really shouldn't be falling in love with, and then actually his brother, and it's all about smuggling and all kinds of dangerous stuff. It's also made into a movie by Alfred Hitchcock, so it must be really good. And I also bought Nightwood by Juna Barnes. And then a couple of really good books. So I normally go to a very, very small bookstore in a village close to mine. It's called Nabokov, and it is really, really, really tiny. If you are inside with 3 people, it's already crowded. It doesn't even have a display, a window display, or nothing. It's just outside of the city center. So yeah, but her selection of books is really exquisite. She always surprises me with new things. So she has a selection for people who really love to read and who are very avid readers, and yeah, it's mostly literary fiction, philosophy, and yeah, that's it. So yeah, of course, with her choices, she chooses with her heart and not with the mind of an entrepreneur, so she struggles to keep afloat, and I try to go there as often as I can, and I always buy my books there. I rarely buy something online. So yeah, she found Rune Christiansen. Rune Christiansen is a Norwegian author. That's him. This book is about a woman. Her parents divorced while she was in her mid-20s, and after that he moved to their family home, to their summer house somewhere in Norway, and we follow the daughter who is in the midst of a divorce herself, to go visit her father, and she sees in everything a sort of a sign. When she sees a woman riding on horseback, she sees it as a sign. She also realizes that there's a lot more to the divorce between her parents than she knows, and yeah, it's more of a character study than anything else. I don't suspect a lot will happen, but the guy who wrote this, Rune Christiansen, is actually a poet, so the prose will be very poetic, I'm sure of it. And I tell you about this book because I'm pretty sure it will be translated. Also a book that is very likely to be translated, because his first book is already translated, his debut novel, and it's by the Spanish young writer Juan Gomez Barcena. I hope I pronounce it right. That's the guy. And he has written a new novel called Canada, with a K. And Canada was sort of an area within the concentration camp of Auschwitz. It's where they stored all the belongings of the people that were held there and killed there. So, you know, the place with all the mountains of shoes and luggage and all kinds of stuff. And there's a guy who survived Auschwitz. He comes back to Hungary. He's very silent, he's very skinny, he has lost everything. He doesn't even have a key anymore to his own house. And when he arrives in his little village, his neighbor, who is also owner of a grocery store, says him, well, I've taken very good care of your house. And when he enters the house, it's a shambles, and in the middle of his living room there's a printer running, and it's printing anti-Soviet propaganda. That's the premise that I know of. According to my friend Victorine, who owns the bookstore, she says it's an absolute must-read. You have to get used to the way he tells the story, but after a while you really are sucked into the story. It's apparently heartbreaking and beautiful. Then also a story that I was really interested about. It's more of a biography than it is a novel, about Victorine Meurant. Victorine Meurant, you won't probably know the name, but her face is well known. So actually this is Victorine Meurant. She was Manet's muse, and she often sat for him. She was his favorite model, but she herself was also a very avid painter, and a very good one, a very talented one. And but she was never taken seriously, A, because she was a woman, B, because she was a model and you could see her naked everywhere, and C, because, well, women that paint, well, that's a hobby, it's not an art. And this is about her struggle to get her recognition, which she never really succeeded in having. It must be very interesting to read. Yeah, I hope. I like this. Don't like the font, the typography, but I like this. I really like it. Like it's erased. And then I found the memoirs of Mustafa Khalifa. It already came out in English way before the Dutch did, and it's called The Shell. Mustafa Khalifa is actually a filmmaker who studied in Paris, but was in Syria when the war broke out, and he was captured, and they thought he was a radical Muslim, but he wasn't. And it's really about how the war is perceived by the Syrians themselves, by the normal people who live there and have nothing to do with all that, all those politics. I'm sorry. Then I also bought Sea of Tranquility. That is already very well known. It's by Emily St. John Mandel. And The Glass Hotel was a previous one. And I believe Obama really liked that book. So yeah. And my last book that I bought is a classic by Thomas Mann, The Magic Mountain. This is the only book by him and the Buddenbrooks that I haven't read. All the rest I have read. I read my first Thomas Mann when I was about 13, 14 years old. It was Felix Krull, The Confessions of Felix Krull. And I really enjoyed it. And then I saw the movie in the 80s, early 80s of Death in Venice. And then a couple of documentaries about him, and especially about his daughter, who also had a cabaret, a political cabaret called Die Pfeffermühle. But so yeah, I'm really excited to read The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. And yeah, I have a lot of work to do. I just finished All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews, and I really enjoyed that book. It's beautiful how it describes depression, and how it shows that even if you have everything going for you, like a beautiful career, a good relationship, you can still fall into a deep depression. It's not something you want, it's something that happens to you. It's a disease like you have COVID or something else. So yeah, that was it. I really highly recommend All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Toews, and I hope you have a great time. Lots of reading to do, writing if you can, and try to go out and discover the world again. Bye bye. Thanks for watching.